2. Do I go? Are we rolling?
You can go.
Okay, we're rolling. February 22nd, 2018, the Be Different podcast is here, and we have the usual crew. We are all here. I've been a little bit sick the last few days, and you can probably hear it in my voice, but I've had my Dayquil. I have a Fresca in my left hand, so I'm feeling okay now. I'm moving to a more positive direction. We have Nick Given. We have Greg Richard across the street, how I like to say it. Greg, how are you today?
Good. How are you, Brad?
I'm doing very well. Nick, how are you today?
I'm also well.
I like how we keep it tight.
This Fresca is so refreshing.
Yeah, it's kind of hitting the spot right now.
I've never had one.
It's very good.
It's good.
It's like a Sprite, but a little bit better, a little bit less sugar.
Wait a minute.
Who is that?
Do we
didn't
now
even know.
have
I forgot Andy was here.
Oh, thanks. Thanks, Brad. No respect. Do we now have a sponsor that I haven't been told about? Is Fresca now a paying participant?
This is our pitch.
I didn't even know they made Fresca anymore. I thought they had discontinued that brand.
You
What
are
happened?
not helping the pitch.
Well, Fresca is a product of the Coca-Cola company, for those of you that did not know. So I guess maybe Fresca wouldn't be our sponsor, but Coca-Cola could be our sponsor. So, yeah, if anybody on the drink side wants a sponsor, especially kicking it old school with Andy Mack, which is what we're talking about right now, I mean, that would be great. I think we would be very much open to that. Andy, would you be okay with that?
I'm into Jolt. Jolt Cola. Remember that would double the caffeine. I need that. I need that Jolt.
You're not a man that needs a jolt. You're always excited. You're always ready to roll. You're very spry. Is spry the correct word?
Spry regarding me physically is no longer the case. No,
mentally. You're very mentally spry.
Mentally, I'm still all right. From the neck up, other than the face, if you put a bag over the face, I have a face for radio, as I've always said.
I disagree with that. People love seeing your face on Kicking It Old School with Andy Mack, Andy. They absolutely do.
They need a trip to their optometrist.
Well, Andy, I don't want to bring this up, but I think we need to revisit this briefly.
Painful.
If we can revisit the matchup that was Villanova at Xavier at the Cintas Center on Saturday. Outside of Len Elmore continually calling JP Makura, I'm not sure why Len cannot figure out JP's name. That was pretty rough. Also, the play on the court was a little bit rough as well, Andy. Villanova hit 11 threes in the first half. Took that big lead early. Xavier crawled back in the second half, but unable to come out with the victory at home.
When Villanova shoots the rock the way they did, 16 made threes, which is an all-time opponent's high against Xavier in any game, even in a practice. I don't think anybody's hit 16 threes against the Xavier defense.
Never happened.
When Villanova plays like that, they're going to be impossible to beat. Home, away, holidays, neutral court, I don't care. An aircraft carrier in Taiwan, they're not going to get beat. And Villanova, fortunately for the Big East, maybe unfortunately for Xavier if they ever play him again in the Big East tournament or maybe in the NCAA tournament, Villanova's getting better. Their freshmen are getting experience because of the injuries, and Phil Booth is back.
I know he played last night.
He's their best perimeter defender. I think he's their third best player after Brunson and Bridges. Better than DiVincenzo because Booth actually plays defense. So Villanova's on a roll. That's good for the Big East. It was not very good for Xavier at the Cintas, but I give the Muskies a lot of credit. They're down 19 with 1 minute left in the first half, and it looks like they're going down like the Titanic. And they eat it back to about 14. Then they continually chip away at that Villanova lead. There's 12:45 left in regulation. They're only 3 down, and then that horrendous officiating situation with the double technical fouls, an extra personal on Paul Scruggs, which nobody brings us up. That took him out of the game. He'd been playing terrific. I mean, Tyreek misses the bunny. If he makes the layup, we don't have to talk about this. It's a 1-point game, but he missed it. And the whole thing was adjudicated very poorly by the officials. I think that Jay Wright, Mr. GQJ, I mean, the guy's great. Everybody loves him. He's the greatest thing since sliced bread, etc. He bitched the hell out of those officials. I mean, he earned his money. It was Coach K-esque.
It was well done.
The way he intimidated those officials.
He did.
He got the call he needed. How they came out of that with Villanova ball and no free throw shot is beyond me. It's a technical foul on Spellman, who initiated the whole thing. He was pissed off at Scruggs because Scruggs had been doubling down and digging on him and making his life miserable. It should have been a technical foul on Spellman. It was a jump ball signaled by one of the officials. Should have been Trayvon Blewett at the line, 2 free throws, 1 point game, Xavier ball under the basket. And it ends up Villanova ball, no free throws. How the heck did that happen?
Yeah, that was definitely a play that kind of changed the course of the game in that second half when Xavier, as you said, was very close to making that run. But there's something about Villanova that Xavier just seems to struggle with. Just 1-10 against Villanova since joining the new Big East. I think for Xavier fans, though, what's so frustrating about this game is you look at Xavier's depth, you look at how well that they had been playing on a 9-game win streak before that game against Villanova at home, and it just wasn't able to get it done. I mean, what happens in the Big East tournament when we go against these guys? Is there anything that Xavier can do to play with Villanova and come out with a win?
I just hope that they do not shoot the hell out of the ball.
Yeah.
And in a championship game, and that's the only way they can play for a third time prior to the NCAA. It's Saturday night, Madison Square Garden, March 11th, I believe the date is, on Fox against Villanova. And if they both get there, I think a number 1 seed is very possible for both teams. So the game, other than winning the Big East title, tournament title, is not irrelevant, but it's sort of like immaterial.
Yeah, and obviously a disappointing game to see that loss, but still likely a number 1 seed. So you take a look at Xavier after that game against Villanova. They play at Georgetown. Kind of a scary game. Georgetown's a team that's been playing very well. The first game at the Cintas Center went all the way to overtime. It took a Trayvon Blewett 4-point play to take that game into OT, but the Musketeers really played well last night. Yeah,
I was extremely impressed. Georgetown came out shooting very well. That skinny freshman Pickett hit 4 threes in the first half. I mean, he completely shot up that 1-3-1 Xavier zone, and Xavier down, I think, 40-38. Blewett used up all his luck on that 4-point play because he was sort of not a passenger.
He was a non-factor last night.
And Xavier still wins 89-77 against the Georgetown team that had been playing very well. They'd won 2 in a row. They won at Butler. They beat Seton Hall. They'd been playing everybody very close, as Xavier found out at Cintas. And Xavier steadied. They got other contributions big time. Najee Marshall played out of his gourd. He scored a career-high 21. He's just coming off Big East Freshman of the Week. He's going to win it again. Xavier rebounded the ball against a very physical team, rebounded it well, 11 offensive boards. That was impressive. Quentin Gooden he didn't miss a shot. He played a super ball game, 19 points, a career high for him. And JP picked up the slack for Trayvon Blewett, and he had a 10-point personal run in the first half to keep it, within range. And I thought it was a great performance.
Yeah, I thought Najee was great from beginning to end. The first half got a little bit uncomfortable too. When Nick, are we okay in the background here?
Yeah, we had a little ad.
I heard a little something in the
cinematic ad promo.
Gotcha.
I thought the system was going down. I got really scared.
Okay, all right, we're all good now.
We're safe.
Okay, well, Andy, I want to go back. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off like that, Andy. I apologize.
Question: Were
you? Yeah, the peanut gallery over here.
Sorry to cut you off. How scared were you when Quentin went down?
Well, it didn't look good. I mean,
it looked really bad.
Paul Scruggs ran into his own guy, which does happen. And luckily, they didn't take him into the dressing room. And Gooden is he's like chipped out of granite. That kid is strong. And he came right back in after about 2 or 3 minutes. Xavier fell behind by 7 while he was out. And boom, right back on the floor. Hardly missed a beat from there. And as I said, ended up with 19 points, 5 for 5 from the field, 6 of 7 for the line, 4 rebounds and 3 assists for Quentin Gooden.
When you kind of got that weird feeling in the first half, too, especially Pickett hit those 3 threes early, And then to end the second half, Xavier's up 38-37. Pickett hits another one that looked like he had no chance from the corner as well. And Georgetown goes up 2 points going into the half. Got to credit Xavier for the way they played in the second half, even with Trayvon Blewett going out. And Najee, from beginning to end, was great. Quentin Gooden played a great game, as you said. And J.P. McCure looked more like himself, being more of the aggressor on the offensive end.
I think Georgetown played way over their head shooting the basketball in the first half. And physically, Xavier should have been up by 8 at the half. They really dominated the boards. They were much more aggressive on the defensive end. Other than Pickett and Govan, the guards certainly didn't show up for Georgetown. They got a big problem at point guard. I think their best option is to play the grad transfer Trey Dickerson, he's fast on fast. He just can't shoot free throws. I mean, he's like a 40% free throw shooter. If he were better at the free throw line, I bet our friend Mulmore, the JUCO, wouldn't even get the warm up off.
Yeah, he's got great speed, and he can blow by you in a hurry. And sometimes he looks great, but between free throws and just at times not making great decisions is probably what holds Patrick Ewing from playing him all the time.
And I think defensively, if you look at the plus minus, he's got to be a minus. I mean, Quentin Gooden manhandles a lot of other point guards just physically. He's so much bigger, stronger, and more eager to attack the rim. And Scruggs is becoming that type of player. He's looking much more comfortable with the ball, attacking the rim. And actually, Xavier's on an upward trend here. If you disregard some of the defensive numbers, and actually they played pretty good D against Georgetown. And the 3 young guns are playing better and better. Najee Marshall, obviously. I'll throw Quentin Gooden into the mix. He's just a sophomore. And Paul Scruggs. Those 3 guys are playing more and more, and they're playing a lot in key end-of-game, end-of-half situations. Defensively, those 3 on the floor are probably part of the best lineup that Xavier can throw out there. And defensively is obviously very important.
Well, and they're a big piece of Xavier's depth and a big reason why they're in the position that they're in right now. One question I have for you, Andy, on the trio of bigs in terms of how they're being played right now. Sean O'Mara didn't play until under the 10-minute mark. Do you have any issue with how the bigs are being played right now? Because I feel like they're having a hard time getting to a rhythm right now.
As far as I'm concerned, especially based on last year's end of regular season NCAA situation, the more of Sean O'Mara I see on the floor, the better I like it. And he may have some deficiencies as far as foot speed, although I sort of doubt it. He's a great pick and roll player. He is willing to bang with anybody, and look at what he did. He scored the winning basket against Arizona last year. He played solid all the way through that vital stretch at the end of the season. I think our friend Tyreek Jones is just maybe a little rusty around the rim and finishing because of the shoulder injury. I don't think he's gotten the reps that maybe he needs. And now with his bye week between Georgetown and the senior night game on February 28th at Cintas, I think it's time for Tyreek to get back that edge in practice and finish more off around the rim. Karem Cantor right now, against certain teams, he's going to be very effective, but he is definitely the weakest of the 3 in terms of defense. Defensive rebounding, he's fine. I mean, he gets in great position, boxes out, etc. But, there's a reason it's a 3-headed center monster. Nobody is a dominant player. They all have their roles. But right now, I like O'Mara. I think he is. He's trending the right way for a senior. He wants to finish strong. I think he's sort of a deep thinker, and I think he's a leader on that team. And I thought he played really well against those 2 Georgetown bigs.
Yeah, and the game against Georgetown, that was a big one to get. I think that was the one you look at the schedule after losing to Villanova. That was the one that kind of scared you. Now you get a break this weekend. You come back home for senior night against Providence, a very good Providence team, but being in the Cintas Center on senior night, you have to feel good about that. And then you go at DePaul to finish out the regular season. And there's no cupcakes here. DePaul is playing better. They have a better team than what they've had in years past, but you got to think the Muskies feel pretty good moving here the last 2 games of the regular season.
Yeah, X is 13-3 in the league. If they win the senior night game against Providence and then go up to Chicago a week from Saturday and beat DePaul, they're going to be 15-3. And the worst they can do is share the Big East regular season title with Villanova.
Is it shared even though they don't own the tiebreaker?
Yep, that's the way it works.
That's the way it works?
It's total record, and the head-to-head does not come into play until, if they end up with identical records, obviously Villanova with the 2 head-to-head wins is going to get the number 1 seed in the Big East tournament, which gets them the 12 noon game in the quarters on Thursday. It gets them the winner of the 8-9 game, not the 10-7 from Wednesday. And they also, if they play again in the Saturday Big East Tournament Championship game, Villanova gets to wear their home uniforms. Big deal. Who cares?
Who cares? Not a big deal at all. We're still champions, right,
it's
Andy?
Good for the managers.
Right.
It's good for the managers.
Nick, how do you feel about that?
Absolute bullshit. Like Villanova should get the title unequivocally.
Why?
Well, they
beat you twice in your tie.
Well, Xavier beat the 2 teams that Villanova didn't beat twice. I mean, Butler beat them once.
Yeah, but
Xavier beat Butler twice.
But Butler's 9-7 in the
Xavier
league.
beat St. John's twice. Villanova lost to them on their home floor. What's the big whoop? That's the way it works.
They beat your ass twice.
We're talking about a body of work, 18 games, home and home, double round robin, and Xavier and Villanova they each get a banner. That's the way it is. I don't care what you think is fair or right or not. We're taking it.
It's crap.
And they're going to lose, too. Villanova's going to – they have to play at Creighton on Saturday, at Seton Hall, and then they're home against Georgetown. So they're going to lose.
Yeah, they don't.
They're going to lose.
Xavier definitely has the easier schedule down the stretch, and we're already technically a half game ahead with 13 wins compared to Villanova's 12 wins.
Brad, what do you really think about it?
Well, I think if it goes to the end of the year and Xavier and Villanova have the same record, I think Villanova is the number 1 team in the Big East. I don't think there's any debate there.
Well, you petition the league, the presidents of the universities and the league office and get the rule changed.
I'll get the rule changed.
In print, they are co-champions.
In print, they may be co-champions, but I know for me as a player, if I'm playing in a conference like the Big East and I'm tied with another team in first place and they beat me and my team 2 times, I mean, I'm giving the nod to them.
You have an Atlantic 10 mindset, Brad. I'm sorry.
I got 3 of those championships.
That's true. You played the game. Whatever.
So
I could argue with you.
Well, and that's where I was going with everything else. The Fresca? Are you taking a little bit of? What's that?
It's great. The Fresca is great.
Yeah, the Fresca is good.
If you consider that you may be addicted to that stuff, there's a 12-step program you need to get in to get away from the Fresca.
I'm within half of my first can ever. So no, not yet.
Well, Andy, I feel
it's pretty quick, the addiction to Fresca. I'll tell you, it's almost like opioids.
There you go. Basically an opioid.
Well, Andy, I think after we've got to talk about Xavier, and we've been able to separate ourselves from the loss. You go on the road again, you win another game. That's Xavier's 5th road game in a row that they have been able to win, Andy, since that loss at Providence. I still feel very excited about this team. There's very few matchups where I don't feel confident in Xavier's ability to guard. Villanova is the one team I do not want to see in the NCAA tournament, and we likely won't have to see them.
The only way that Xavier and Villanova would meet in the NCAA tournament would be fortuitous for everybody. They're not going to be in the same region. It would be at the earliest a national semifinal game. In other words, a Final Four on a Saturday on CBS in San Antonio. I'd take that. And I'd take my chances against Villanova and hope that they have trouble with a shooting background in San Antonio and they throw up a bunch of air balls.
Yeah.
I mean, would that be great to get 2 Big East teams into the final? Now, everybody would say, it's not the old Big East in 1985 when St. John's, Georgetown, and Villanova all made the Final Four. It's the requiem to the Big East. They're playing that damn thing on ESPN again, that 30 for 30 requiem for the Big East, which was made like 5 years ago.
I would love that.
ESPN hates the Big East. That guy Seth Greenberg, who never made an NCAA tournament at Virginia Tech, he actually said that the Big East is off Broadway on ESPN. I mean, in the studio, the Big East is off Broadway. That's what he said. Seth Greenberg. Get a life.
I agree.
Yeah,
The new Big East, the old Big East was great, right? They had depth, they had history, they had culture, but the new Big East has that as well. And I think the new Big East has a great style of basketball. I think top to bottom, obviously it's one of the best leagues in all of college basketball right now. And you got offensive players everywhere. Every single team right now, there's offensive players all across the board. There's great guard play. I mean, if you want to watch good basketball, the old Big East was great. The new Big East was great. I think you just have respect for both and understand what you have right now isn't changing, and it's great basketball.
It's a different era. It's the era of the three-point shot. It's the era of up-tempo, quick shooting, et cetera, et cetera. And the Big East is right at the top of the charts in terms of points per game, shooting percentage, efficiency, on and on. I mean, it's maybe the most exciting basketball in the country.
I agree. And Andy, Xavier has a lot to be excited about. There's still a lot left for them to play. A couple of games left that could get them that championship in the Big East. Then they'll have the Big East tournament, NCAA tournament. Before that, though, we will have you back here. Senior night is on Wednesday, so we'll likely get you after senior night on Wednesday. But Andy Mack, as always, you are fantastic, and we look forward here to the end of the season.
You know, Brad, I got a little geared up, a little revved up on a couple of issues. That officiating deal in the Villanova game, it might not have made any difference because they were playing so well, but it did bother me. It took the drama out of the final 12 minutes of that game because I thought Xavier they needed everything to fall into place, and it was. I mean, they were right there, and then, whatever. I mean, I looked at the video, maybe I looked at it through Xavier-colored glasses or whatever, but I thought it was a bad adjudication there by those officials, but that's the way it is. I was very thrilled, not thrilled, but I liked the result of the Georgetown game, the way that was played, and a win over Providence, a win over DePaul, and this team is going to zip into New York with a lot of momentum.
A lot of momentum, a lot of energy, and a chance to get that number one seed in the NCAA tournament, which mean a lot, not only the players and the coaches, but also the fan base. So it's a long time coming for Xavier, I think, to get that seed.
I'm pretty greedy. I'd like the number one, but I'd like it to be in Omaha in the Midwest because I can rent a big van and drive out there.
That'd be great.
I don't want to fly to Los Angeles. They're going to screw me at $600 to fly out there.
I'll ride with you there, Andy.
I don't like that city.
We'll make it happen.
Morally, ethically, it doesn't line up with my Midwestern values.
Yep. So, Andy, we appreciate you coming on. We got Keith Jackson who just walked in the door. He is coming on next to the Be Different podcast. But, Andy, that is Kicking It Old School with Andy Mack. Welcome back to the Be Different podcast. No, I did not give Greg Wichard or Nick Given the 3-2-1. I'm just going to make them go back through the whole deal and figure out where they want to start this one.
Sounds great.
But we do have a very special guest with me, and it's a Xavier legend, but it's not Andy Mack. Andy Mack is gone. He's out of the building. He has a big day ahead of him. Andy's traveling the Midwest over the next couple of days because Xavier is not playing. But we have another a former Xavier basketball player from 2001 to 2005, also played in Cincinnati, Purcell, Marion High School, and now he's a father of twins as well, and that is Keith Jackson. Keith Jackson, thank you so much for visiting the Be Different podcast. I know this is a very stressful situation, and you're probably very nervous walking in, but hey, thank you very much for coming on.
Well, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
What's going on in your world before we get started on some hoops?
Man, just work. I'm a banker at U.S. Bank doing business banking, and then the family, twins, wife,
How are the twins doing?
They're doing great. Running around everywhere, getting into everything. So it's awesome. Yeah.
What are their names again?
Keith the third and Nadia. We call Keith Champ.
Champ.
All
right.
That's a good name. What was the most challenging part of having twins that you had to get used to?
I'm not a baby person, so I'm not a one to hold babies. So it was like my wife was out of it for a few days, and they're like, "All right, Dad, get over here, change diapers, hold them." And I'm like,
That's terrifying.
Yeah, that's very terrifying.
If you don't do the right things, like they won't continue living.
I learned that
They scare me so much. Like newborn babies, they scare me so much.
Do you watch it? Did you watch like the how to how-to videos, and did you read some books? And
I Googled, some stuff,
just
but
just
other than
Googled,
that, man,
just Googled and went rogue.
I just jumped in there, man. You just figure it out.
That's good.
Instinct.
It's because you care about them so much. It's like you constantly are thinking about them, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's crazy.
I was comparing your twins to my girlfriend's dog recently, and then you guys came at me like a spider monkey.
Yeah, you go, how are the twins? And you're like, yeah, like, Chrissy got a dog, so like, I had to like let it out this morning.
Yeah, well, it's raining. It's 40 degrees. I'm taking this dog out in a downpour. I mean, the thing's about 2 inches tall. It's trying to take a pee, and it's like literally has its butt on the grass.
I didn't have to take my kids
Doggy
out.
diaper.
So you don't have to take the twins outside. I got you there.
Get a doggy diaper or something, Well,
I mean, you can.
He's learned to put diapers on his. Like, put some diapers on
Hey,
his.
throw a diaper on that bad boy and get after it.
Does changing diapers bother you at all?
No, not at all.
Did it at first.
No.
Really?
It was
you
like
just get through it.
that first initial couple, weeks where it's like dark tar. Like, you guys will learn about that. If you're not fathers, you'll learn about that. That was rough. But
Dark tar stage is over.
the stinky stuff doesn't bother me.
Bigger accomplishment, being a dad or playing at Xavier.
Being a dad, for sure.
It's got to be.
Yeah.
Got to be. All right,
Sure.
let's talk about the Xavier Musketeers, and then we'll get on to some of the teams that you played for during your time playing for the Musketeers. But this year's team, very good. 25-4, 13-3 in the Big East Conference. Right now, tied with Villanova. Villanova does have that tiebreaker, winning the game in Philadelphia as well as the game in Cincinnati. But just kind of your overall take on this team. Any player individually you enjoy watching, go ahead.
I mean, this year I love the balance that we have. We have Trayvon Blewett, who's averaging almost 20 points a game, but overall I think everybody contributes, which is a huge deal. And it's part of the reason that makes it so difficult to guard, because you have Najee Marshall, you have Cantor, you have O'Mara, you have Tariq, and all these guys are contributing. And it's a beautiful thing to watch when you can go inside, you can go outside, you can speed the game up, you can slow it down. I mean, it's tough for teams to compete with us.
I mean, across the board, I think Xavier's depth is one thing that stands out to you. Really, the only disappointing thing for me was the Villanova game. Were you in attendance for that one?
I was there.
Because for me, and I think a lot of Xavier fans, and we talked with Andy Mack briefly earlier about this, I think the one thing going into the game you felt really good about was the depth. Mm-hmm. And it just felt like we weren't able to use our depth against that Villanova team. Is it something with Villanova? They're just better. They just have the right matchups against us. The way they spread us out causes us some issues.
I definitely think that with having Spellman be able to step out and shoot threes, it kind of was hard for Tariq to be on the floor. Cantor is not the best defender. O'Mara's huge, but doesn't have fast feet. So how do you match up with that? Because you can't put Blewett at the 5, or Kaiser Gates at the 5 is a tough matchup. So they pose a difficult threat just because you have 5 players on the floor that can shoot threes.
Well, I think if Kaiser was playing better going into that game, he could have been a matchup that they might have been able to go to, but Kaiser really has been playing well. Mm-hmm. The game against Georgetown, the following game, hit a couple of threes. I thought it looked more like the Kaiser Gates we were used to seeing at the beginning of the year. But Sean O'Mara, Cantor, Tyreek Jones, they all played under 15 minutes in that game against Villanova. Mm-hmm. So our depth wasn't able to be utilized. Is there anybody on the team that reminds you of yourself? Anyone that's like, man, that looks a lot like Keith Jackson out there?
Athletically, probably Q.
Okay.
He's a freak of nature, man. When he actually gets in the lane and takes
you just
off.
call yourself a freak of nature?
Yeah.
No, I said Q's a freak of nature, not me.
I could jump out of the gym.
I could jump out of the gym back in my day.
Yeah.
That's one thing I'm not bashful about.
Okay, fair.
Being athletically.
I remember.
Yeah, Q's a sculpted guy. He's a sculpted guy, a lot like myself. A lot like myself when I was playing. And I think Q lives, by a motto that I do. You got to feed the machine premium fuel, for your premium guy.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And Q's a premium machine. Nick, I saw you kind of uncomfortable with the eyes as you looked over here.
Yeah, I don't know. I've seen you eat. I've seen you drink. I don't think that you feed the machine correctly anymore.
Well,
are you talking about back in the day?
You see me on those are outlier days. You've seen me on a lot of outlier days.
Okay, I see you put like the low grade of gas in.
No,
I don't see the premium going in.
Yeah. Well,
You're drinking as you drink a Fresca. Mm-hmm. You got the super juice over here.
Trying to make it happen, man. Got to get back in shape.
yeah. See, that's good, Nick. We need to get back to Keith. This is about Keith.
It's about Keith, not about you.
What about the changes over at the Cintas Center? I was kind of pleasantly surprised with some of the changes this year, but just your thoughts on what they've been able to do over there.
It's a big-time environment. I mean, Xavier's considered a small school, but when you step into the Cintas Center, you don't realize that. You know, I think it's a state-of-the-art facility. I love the additions they've added to the building. It creates a great environment for the fans.
I'm going to ask you a couple of tough questions, or one tough question. Is this the best Xavier team, the best roster that they have ever had?
I don't know, man. That's we've had some really good teams. You go back to the Elite Eight run where you had Derek Brown, Stanley Burrell, Brad Redford. You go back to our first Elite Eight team where you had 3 NBA guys on that roster with David West, Romaine Sato, and Lionel Chalmers. But in terms of depth, I think this was probably, 1 through 10, probably the most talented team we've ever had.
I think it's very close. I think they're right up there. I think I'd agree with you. I think my team, my sophomore year, was really good. Mm-hmm. You had Jordan Crawford, Mark Lyons, Holloway, Freeze, myself, Jamel McLean, and Dante Jack. I mean, you had 9 guys that could play. Same with you guys had some of the same groups. So I think they're right up there with some of the teams. Even the team 2 years ago that went to the Sweet 16, that was a really good team.
That was a heartbreaker.
I mean, that team was loaded.
Yeah, they were.
That team was absolutely loaded. I mean, Jalen Reynolds, James Farr, the length that those guys had, and you still had Trayvon and JP. I know they were younger.
Remy,
but they were playing well from the beginning. And the 1-3-1 that they were able to run with that group was suffocating.
Yeah.
I mean, the length that they had, you could put Jalen on the bottom, you could put JP, you could put James in the middle of the high post. I mean, the length they had in that 1-3-1 was scary.
Yeah.
And then if they get out of the Wisconsin game, I truly felt that team 2 years ago was that Final Four run team.
We were definitely right there.
Yeah.
We were knocking on the door.
Absolutely.
I've never seen Greg so crushed.
That was a kick in the balls right there.
Yeah, that was bad.
We were streaming it at our house, and I updated my ESPN, so I saw that it went final, and the play hadn't happened yet. And I just looked at Greg, and he's like waiting for the stream to catch up, and then I knew they were going to lose. And so I watched it happen. I didn't even watch the game. I just watched him turn even more white.
I remember watching the game, and I was just I think I was just with a friend at my house, and we were watching. I literally I stood up. I didn't say anything, and I went to bed. I didn't watch the replay. It was an incredible shot because it's the team you enjoy watching a team all year long, and they played so well. And they have so much talent, and you expect them to keep going and playing forever. And then when it ends, and it doesn't matter when it ends,
that was a good team.
It's final. It's
that
done.
Was right when I first started watching Xavier more than just occasionally, and Jalen seemed to have figured it out. You're like, they could really do it.
Yeah,
they could really be good.
Yeah.
And they play that. What was it? One magic moment, and that replay played the arrest.
Oh yeah.
Just every game you watch, it was halftime. It's like, here's some replays, and it's just like, just let me watch basketball without having that just put in my face.
They played it this year.
I'm
like, come on, stop showing it.
It just becomes implanted in your mind like a tattoo. Well, I remember my freshman year, we played in the Sweet 16.
Oh, Kansas State game?
No, my freshman year when we played against Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh was the number 1 seed when they had DeJuan Blair and Levance Fields. And there was a play at the end of the game where I was in, and Levance Fields, I don't know how he either got an outlet rebound or a steal, but he was kind of sprinting fast break, and I was right behind him. And I could have fouled him probably, but I kind of just swiped at him and let him go. And then that highlight of me swiping at Levance Fields and then him making the shot played all year long. And I was at Michigan State. I was in East Lansing visiting my brother, and it kept replaying, and his friends kept making me take shots every time that it came up. So
wow,
yeah. Safe to say, I only remember pieces of that evening, but I remember about the first 3. It was rough. And then that was the Final Four that Michigan State was in, and then Michigan State lost to UConn. I think that was Draymond Green's freshman year. And then I remember we were driving around, and they were couches burning on streets in East Lansing.
That's good stuff.
Taking the loss really well.
You got to love the couch burnings.
Yes. So I want to get back to Keith here. We're at 2001 to 2005 at Xavier. So you were kind of a part of 3 different staffs at some level because you were recruited by Skip Prosser. You played for Coach Thad Matta from your freshman year to your junior year when you made the run your junior year. And then senior year was Coach Miller's first year.
Yeah.
So maybe let's start with Coach Prosser, obviously a guy that a lot of people respect. How was the recruiting process for you coming up, obviously a very highly touted player in Cincinnati?
It was awesome. Being from here and literally being a mile away, I was able to come to Xavier a lot for open gyms and actually hang out with the guys. So making my commitment was rather easy because I felt so comfortable. And then literally gone.
Yeah.
So, at that point, there was no transferring because you had to sit out a year. And I'm like, well, I have to stay. I'm not sitting out a year.
So, and that rule has changed, right? So this year, now you're
sure.
allowed to.
If your coach leaves,
you're allowed to leave now. And so, and I would imagine that you're someone that would support that rule.
Oh yeah, of course. It just makes it really uncomfortable when you don't have any idea who the coach is that's coming in and the type of system they're going to run, or do you fit? Because honestly, I didn't really know. I don't think I fit that Matta's offense. He wanted to more slow it down, control pace. Yeah, you can run a little bit, but like I said, you had Romain Sato, who's a thoroughbred, Lionel Chalmers, who's also a freak of nature in terms of just speed and athleticism, but we're slowing the ball down. They get it to David West every possession.
Yeah.
It was kind of frustrating.
I understand
you
they get it to David West part, but let him run.
Get it to Dave, of course, but if you have layups, take them. You know what I mean?
For sure.
So, and then Miller came in, and it was kind of more of the same thing, but I enjoyed Coach Miller for sure. I think he's a great guy, despite what everybody says about him. So.
Yeah, he's got a little bit of heat on.
I was making some
But
off-air
to
jabs.
Keith's point, that's not something that you think about, honestly, as a high school player, is pace of play or offense.
Well, because if you get to that level, you're the man anyway.
Yeah,
so everything ran through you in high school anyway.
Right. So you just think, at least I felt like, no matter what they run here, like I'm going to be able to beat what they run, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure you had the same sentiment.
I just wanted to be a part of, as a freshman, with that team where we had Lionel Chalmers, Romain Sato, David Young. We were loaded at the guard spot. I was like, I just want to play. If I can get in and compete for a spot, awesome. I understand I have to earn my keep. And then it was just like, oh, here we go again.
Right.
Another coaching staff come. But it was awesome because my junior year going into my senior year, I was able to tell Stanley Burrell, like, hey, you'll be okay. I've been through this before. Stay calm. You're a great player. You'll figure it out.
Right.
So I was a comforting person for the younger guys on that team.
Yeah, it's challenging to kind of find your place in your role early on, and you find a way to get minutes, and then going from there to expanding your role. But there also is something to be said about the culture and the style of play. There's only so much that you can change as a player too. I mean, I'd say unless maybe you're a first-round draft pick or a guy who has like crazy NBA talent, then I would say coaches are probably going to stretch a little bit more outside of their comfort zone. But it takes a lot for a coach and his staff to go out of their comfort zone for a player. I mean, and that's one thing that I've tried to talk to players as I've coached and trained is when you're looking at a college, look at obviously somewhere outside of basketball you're going to enjoy being, but also look at the pace of play. Look offensively. One thing I tell my players all the time is ask the coach, has he coached a player exactly like you? Mm-hmm. That's a great question because if he hasn't coached a guy exactly like you, then I probably wouldn't go there.
Right.
And that's something maybe, obviously I think we both had great experiences at Xavier, but just something that I think as a younger player you definitely want to think about.
Oh, yeah. For sure. I mean, I love my 4 years at Xavier. Don't get me wrong. Basketball-wise, it was just a little tough. I mean, of course, you want to play. I played 20 to 25 minutes a game my first 2 years to 15, maybe 10. My last 2 years, what changed? You know what I mean?
Right.
You obviously know I can play. I started 10 to 12 games my sophomore year, so I played pretty well in those circumstances, and I felt like I got better every year, but wasn't able to show it my last 2 years. So it was frustrating, but the winning cures everything.
Right.
Sure. Well, and you were part of that big run, 03, 04.
Yeah.
I still have that DVD at home. The run
DVD.
Yes, I do.
Can you record? Can you copy it for me?
Do you
Because
need one?
I need one.
Okay.
Oh, you don't have a copy of it?
I don't have that. No.
Yeah, I'll have to. I'll
do
get
that.
that copy for you.
Man, Greg, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I'm glad that you're able to provide that.
Helping,
Help me out.
I can
I
help
appreciate
out.
it.
Was it Corey that you got the autograph from?
No, it was DeMar Johnson.
Oh, that was so funny.
Yeah.
He goes, DeMar, you probably remember this at the Eastgate Mall or whatever. He signed an autograph for me when I was like 11.
It's so funny. Well, the run was amazing. And St. Joe's was the best team in the country at the time when you guys were working through the Atlantic 10.
I was at that game.
Jameer Nelson, Delonte West, and you guys were the first team to beat them. And I was in the semifinals, too, of the Atlantic 10. So then you had to do away with that win very quickly and then move on to the championship game.
It was crazy. I remember because they were so good. Those two guys single-handedly beat us at Xavier. So it was like we came in we were on edge. When we were excited, but we were on edge. And we're up 20 in the first half. And I'm like,
what is happening?
When is this, like, when are they going to make their run? You know what I mean? It's a game of runs. I get it. When are they going to make their run? And they never did.
Yeah.
And we just kept our foot on the gas.
Well, you guys, I think you guys shot like close to 70% from the floor that game. It was unbelievable.
Yeah, that was Lionel. I mean, Lionel was really good in practice. I think what happened was he finally showed it. He started to show it in games. And, I mean, his stock blew through the roof just because, I mean, he outplayed Jameer Nelson, who was one of the best point guards in the country at that time. For sure.
He threw down a nice dunk towards the end of the game. I remember that.
Oh, yeah. Lionel was the truth, man.
The smile on your face, Greg, when you said that is hysterical.
I think it was his only dunk like all season, and he just slammed it home against the #1 team in the country.
That was pretty good. So you guys win the Atlantic 10 tournament, then you go to the NCAA tournament.
Were you not supposed to make the tournament had you not won?
They had to win the Atlantic 10 tournament.
We got hot at the right time and never looked back.
Oh.
They started. You guys started 10-9 and 2-5 in the A10.
Yeah. I remember losing.
10-9, 2-5 in the A10.
We lost at Georgetown. Oh, not at George Washington, and I mean we should have beat George Washington easily, but we lost. And Lionel Chalmers went off. I mean, that Mata couldn't really talk to us because Lionel Chalmers was storming through the locker room, cursing. This is Xavier. We don't lose like this, and it was kind of eye-opening. And I think that triggered him to just take over, because there was a kind of a battle for leadership. Is it Sato? Is it Chalmers? Is it Anthony Miles? And from that point on, it was definitely Lionel's team.
Oh, so the leadership changed after Lionel was able to kind of voice his opinion?
Yeah, it was kind of a three-headed monster in terms of leadership, but after that, it was just like get the ball to Lionel and let him do what he does. And Sato, you go ahead. He'll get you the ball, and Miles, you do your thing once you touch it on the block. So, yeah, it was definitely a changing of the guard there.
That's amazing. I mean, to go from 10-9, 2-5 in conference play, and then win the A10 tournament where you beat the best team in the country in St. Joe's with two legitimate NBA players. Then you're a 7 seed. You beat Louisville, Mississippi State, and Texas.
Yep.
And then you get that game against Duke.
I mean, and at that point, Texas, Mississippi State, I forget the guy's name, but they had a guy down low that was. He was one of the top big men in the country. He was a ball guy.
Do you remember who that was?
Yeah, I know. I don't remember his name. I know exactly who you're talking about.
And then Texas had a guy named Brandon Mouton.
Yeah.
And he was there. He looked like a 40-year-old guy, just like he was already. I mean, he was a man down low.
Yeah, he
was feeding the machine.
He was feeding the machine quality products.
I got suspended from the track team in high school because I drove down to Atlanta for the Sweet 16 game. Saw the Sweet 16 game. Had a track. Had a track meet at LaSalle like on Saturday, and coach wasn't too happy.
They had Texas had PJ Tucker too, who's with Houston now. Mm-hmm. Yeah, Texas had Duke had a bunch of NBA guys. Texas had a couple NBA guys. Francisco Garcia was at Louisville. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, we played against some quality opponents, man, and ran right through them.
Were those games close, or were you guys always in control in those?
We pretty much were in control of all of them.
The Louisville game, I think at one point they were down like 11 in the second half or so. And Diedrich Finn.
He's Andy Mack's son, I swear to God.
Diedrich Finn had a 4-point play that like brought things a little back into game mode.
Back into control mode for the Xavier Musketeers.
Do you think that was in the game? How much time left exactly?
It was in the second half for sure. But
9:42.
Somewhere in there.
Well, the game against Duke was close, 56-56, under 3 minutes in the second half. Duke had Chris Duhon, J.J. Redick, Daniel Ewing, Luol Deng, Sheldon Williams. So one of those classic Duke teams. And it took J.J. Redick hit a 3 on you guys. Do you remember that?
Oh yeah.
And that was kind of the backbreaker that stretched it out for Duke at the end there.
It was a tough one just because we were so close, and when Anthony Miles picked up that fourth foul, I remember sitting at the top of the bench right next to the coaches, begging to get in for one thing, but telling them to take Anthony out. He can't play with 4 fouls against these guys. Take him out. And Thad told me to be quiet and sit down.
Ooh.
A minute later, he fouls out. And I'm like, now what are we going to do?
Yeah.
We only play 7 people. Like, you know what I mean?
And there were like 12 minutes left in the game.
Exactly. So now you're depending on guys that don't normally play major minutes. You know, it'd be different if we played the type of offense we play now where we play 10 guys. They didn't do that then. So now I'm like, okay, we got to rely on Brandon Cole and Will Cottle, who we haven't trusted all year. No, those are my guys. No, those are my guys. Don't get me wrong. Those are my buddies. But, you know, it is what it is, to be honest.
I mean, that entire Duke team went to the NBA, right?
Pretty much.
I mean, just about.
The entire team
Pretty
went
much,
to the
yeah.
NBA.
Yeah, and Miles, before he fouled out, had 16 points.
Oh, he was killing Sheldon Williams. He was eating him alive.
Yeah, I mean, Chalmers had 17, Sato with 10. Then you had Cage and Dolman. I mean, that's a big-time group.
Yeah, Cage was a great defender.
Yeah.
He was a fantastic defender.
Do you remember when you said that you'd beat J.J. Redick in a shooting contest?
I believe it.
I think I could beat JJ right.
He said that quick.
I believe it. I believe in my boy.
Yeah, I and I've said this to multiple people. Off the catch for sure, I would have no problem at all because that's what that's what I did. Like
how much money
I
he
conditioned
makes?
myself at Xavier to be one of the best catch and shoot guys anywhere.
I thought you focused on defense.
If you think Sean Miller and Chris Mack brought me to Xavier to play defense, Greg, you are mistaken. You are absolutely they brought me there to make shots. Okay, defense was more than an afterthought for me.
That's I thought you just won Mr. Basketball off of defense.
Yeah. I'm sure Sean Miller and Chris
He's a
man, this
shot
Brad
blocker
Redford
down
guy
there.
with his length and athleticism, he's going to be a lockdown one-on-one defender. You're like, no, this guy can shoot from friggin' Michigan and it'll be fine. So the run ends, lost to Duke. Okay, Thad goes to Ohio State. Can you open up about the transition from Thad to Ohio State? Because I've heard some stories about this situation, and I want to get the truth. I want to get what happened, how quickly was the transition, and how did Thad make you guys aware that he was gone?
So it was kind of some rumblings. And he said, no, it's not happening, but I guess he was taking private jets to Columbus, you know, doing that thing.
To Columbus,
It's an hour and a half.
ride?
Yeah, it's an hour and a half away. You're taking a private jet, but whatever. And then he calls us into to the dorm, and we're all going to come in, and he's like, yeah, I got to move on to bigger and better things. You tell that to your team that just took you to the Elite Eight.
Jeez.
He said bigger and better.
Bigger and better things.
Oh, wow.
So at that point, I stood up and I said, guys, we'll be okay. We've been through this before. We'll be A-okay. Don't worry about it. I was grateful that we didn't have to come in with a whole new regime of coaches. Sean Miller just stepped right in because he had been there already for 3 years, and you know we kept things rolling. But it definitely made that transition easier for me. Definitely not having to have a whole new coaching staff.
What a sentence.
That's amazing.
Wow. So
Did he have an Ohio State fleece on as he said that?
I don't remember that.
It was like under his jacket. He had his Ohio State polo on.
Yeah, that adds to
That's
my
amazing.
hatred.
bleeding through.
Terrible choice of words.
Yeah, that adds to my you know, I'm a competitive guy, so when you tell me you're going to move on to bigger and better things, it's like, okay.
Oh, I'm sure that would fire everybody
I'm
up.
like, God, I hope we're playing next year.
Jeez.
Well,
Then they played like when Oden's freshman year.
Oh, yeah,
And
yeah, come on, man.
Gosh.
How do you not call that foul when
I
they threw
know.
Justin Cage out of bounds? That's all I'm saying.
We're on the same page.
Yeah.
Like, how do you not call it? I think everybody in the country was like, whoa, that's not legal.
Thad was just thinking about that paycheck. Speaking of paychecks, you played for Coach Miller for a year.
Attaboy.
So how much money did you make in that year?
Oh, man, I was balling out of control in my Pontiac Sunbird, so I was filthy rich, for sure. Those $500 checks, you know, weren't really covering too much food for me. So
Yeah, you were getting that per diem. You were getting that per diem.
saving my meal money, my $25 from the airport. Yeah.
Well, Keith, do you have any plans to go to any of the other Xavier games before the year is out? Are you going to hit the Providence game on senior night?
I want to try to make it there. I believe it's a 6:30 game.
If you need a babysitter, just call me and I'll call Greg.
Yeah, you bring you bring a dog over and you know. But yeah, so I'm gonna try to debate that with the wife and maybe try to get the family there for that one. So
We have a more important question to ask you.
what's that?
Oh yeah,
And
then we'll let you go after
It's probably
this
the
one,
most
Keith.
important question we've asked all day, and it's I'll set the stage. So Brad used to play in college, as you know. Greg and I did not. And so Leonard Stokes is on his way in the building shortly here. He played at a school across town, and we're gonna And then you've known Andy Mack.
Yeah.
So Andy really wanted to get into coaching, and his lifelong dream is to take over for Chris Mack one day. And so what we wanted to do is form a team for Andy to coach, intramural style, and we're looking for people to fill the roster. Would you be interested?
It depends on what day of the week, but I'm in.
Yeah, we'll accommodate. If you want in, we'll accommodate your schedule.
Yeah.
We're going to build a
depends on
very
the day of the
big
week.
roster. So, you know, if you can make it to a couple games.
Oh, yeah, let's do it. Let's do it.
All right.
It's gonna be good
It'll be
stuff.
fun.
Yeah,
We're filling
for
out
sure.
the squad.
I'm going to try and not get embarrassed constantly because I have a feeling we're going to get put in a very high level of intramurals, and I stopped playing competitively at like 6th grade. So it's going to be rough for me.
We got
Yeah.
Brad Redford. We'll be okay.
We'll be
we're
fine,
good.
guys.
We're good.
We'll be fine.
I'm not worried about the
Right,
offense.
Keith?
We'll
You
be
still
fine.
block, right?
on a good day.
I'm
good
not
day.
worried
On a good
about
day.
the offensive end. I'm worried about getting crossed and spraining my ankle.
You'll be okay.
This patella tendonitis is
I got
kind of
faith in
slowing
you.
down right now, but
Well, Keith, thank you so much for joining the Be Different podcast. It was
Thanks for
great
having me.
catching up with you as always. Some great stories that I can't wait to get out there. So, Keith, I know you're a big Xavier guy. We hope that Xavier continues to make their run as I do moving forward. I'll let you get out of here. I'll let you get to work.
I appreciate it, man. I'm not going in for a while, so.
All right, well, Keith
I'll hang
Jackson,
out.
thank you.
Thanks, man.
Welcome back to the Be Different podcast. This is your host, Brad Redford, and we have a special guest on the phone, a former teammate of mine at Xavier University, NBA basketball player, one of the best scorers I've ever played against. I hated guarding this guy ever, and not that I liked guarding anyone, but Jordan Crawford was one guy I did not like to guard at all. Jordan Crawford, you are on the phone. Thank you for joining the Be Different squad.
Man, I appreciate you having me, man.
You sound amazing. It's 8 in the morning right now, and man, you sound alive. You're a guy though that does not need any sleep. Your energy continually amazed me when we were playing together.
Yeah. I wake up every day, try to, go about the day positively, and, get work in and just continue to build towards something,
I believe that. And my only problem, there was one problem I had with calling you on the phone, Jordan. There was one. Do you know what it was?
What was it?
The interview that we did on Redford's Rundown about 4 years ago was the best interview that I've ever done. You mentioned in that interview a couple of things. One was that one of the best times at Xavier was traveling with your teammates. You also mentioned at that time you were playing in Atlanta that the women were a lot more fun than playing basketball games. Is that still true?
Man, all that still exists for sure.
It all still has to exist. Oh, man, that's hysterical. You also said, I want to ask you about this one, and this is somewhat of a legitimate question, but I said, what was the most impressive performance you had seen at the NBA level? At that time, you said it was Steve Nash. Has anything changed since that time?
I done seen a few good performances, but the Steve Nash one, I think it was just, I was just getting to the next level, and I was trying to see what's the difference between just regular players and what make other players special. So that one was just so special because I couldn't see how he was really doing it, but he was doing it on a nightly basis, which impressed me because he made it look easy. So I still tell everybody about that one, honestly. So I remember my first game, I got traded to the Warriors. KD had like 56, and it was crazy seeing it up first, against Draymond because he was playing as good as he could, but it was just nothing he could do that day. And that's how it is in the NBA. The talent is that good.
It doesn't matter how good the defense is. That's what I've been trying to preach that to people for years. Years, and it doesn't matter what defense you play. If KD is hot, he's getting a 50 ball. Right,
Yeah,
just like guarding you. If I was guarding you on a good day for you, it was an awful day for me. It was terrible. I was getting yelled at. Chris Mack would kill me. I'm like, you're like, Redford, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm guarding Jordan Crawford. I don't know what you want me to do.
No, it's the same when people check you though. You know what I'm saying? You averaging 40 all through the year. Once you see the rim and you feeling good, it's nothing nobody can do.
It's amazing when you get to that spot as a player. When you hit that offensive peak in a game, you almost like completely shut off. You're like unconscious, and you just let it take over.
Yeah.
Have you been able to watch the Xavier team play much at all this year?
Yeah. I watched a few games. I watched the game last night too.
Oh, you did. What were your thoughts from last night?
I mean, you got so many. It's so many. We got so many players that skilled, and I think like, especially now in today's the game today, like players only there for 6 months or a year, something like that. So they're not really going through the ups and downs. And with Xavier, they got a team full of players that's been there 2, 3, 4 years. So it's like you got the talent level, and you also got the mental toughness part, and that's what give them like the last 2 years. I really feel like they have a legitimate chance to win it all, but they got to believe that. But because of the experienced players, give them an advantage.
What are your thoughts on Trayvon Blewett at the next level?
I got you stay aggressive, you stay confident. He got a real good chance. I mean, he's aggressive. You can tell he looks for the big moment. So I mean, as long as you stay confident, stay playing your game, you always got a chance.
All right, the NCAA tournament is coming up. That was definitely one of your bright spots as a player here at Xavier. You averaged almost 30 points a game during the Sweet 16 run to the Sweet 16 run against Kansas State, the double overtime game. But against Minnesota, you had 27. Pittsburgh, you had 32. I mean, and you were averaging over 20 that season. I mean, you're a complete bucket getter. There was 2 shots to me that stand out. The one that you always see against Minnesota in the first round, it was 31-30. You had that amazing scoop shot that you see on like every single NCAA video that Xavier has. And then the double overtime thriller when Gus Johnson was on the call. I mean, one of the best NCAA tournament games really of all time. Score was 87-84. Johnson's going nuts. You have the ball in your hands, Jordan, from like 3 feet in front of half court with about 4 seconds left. And it looked like we just like gave you the ball. And everybody, including the other 8 guys on the court, were just watching. It was just you and then the defender. Do you remember who was playing defense on you at that time?
Yeah. It was Kelly. I forgot his first name, but he's from New York. But yeah.
Can you take me through that shot?
Well, it was at the time, that whole tourney was special because it felt free just playing up and down game. But I remember, I just knew when I had it, I just wanted a clean look more than anything. I knew it was far, but
you're literally. I'm watching the video right now. Your foot is at half court on the catch. It's. Oh, there's a ball screen. You came out. Oh, Jason Love said the ball screen.
Stop gassing it, bro.
I'm not. I don't gas at all, and I'm in the corner like, pass it to me, Jordan. Pass it to me, Jordan. Let me get the offensive rebound, Jordan. I'm watching this right now, and I honestly never watch myself, but I look like a little kid trying to grab some taffy out of the candy store, trying to get that rebound. Gosh, that's hysterical. Oh, that's funny. That is really good.
Yeah. It was just a shot I wanted to have a clean look, and just shot it confidently.
All right, and then your professional career, you've continued to get baskets at all level, not only just in the States, but also in China. You had 61 points in a game in China, 71 points in a game in China. Was 71 your career high?
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm watching some highlights of the game. Actually, I'm sorry, you had 72 points. I was mistaken.
That wasn't.
Do these Chinese guys play any defense on you, or what's going on?
I mean, they actually play. They actually play hard. They go for a little more moves than the people over here. but that wasn't really my best game. But it was just a game where I wanted to see how many points I can get, and I wanted people in the States to hear about it.
People heard about it.
Yeah, I wanted people to hear about it. So it was just an opportunity to keep my name, buzzing and stuff like that.
Dude, your handles crack me up sometimes, man. I feel like you just get out there and like, I'm just gonna mess with as many people as I can tonight. I'm just gonna put as many people on skates as I possibly can.
Try.
Oh man, so you're in Detroit right now. What's your plan, kind of moving forward with everything?
Well, I got it's a couple teams that's interested in me. That's really considering bringing me on. So basically I'm just staying in shape and kind of picking what option I want to take. I'm a person that I done got to a level where, I don't just play basketball to go play it because it's basketball season. If I'm not comfortable, if it's something that my heart not in, I'm not gonna really force myself to do it. So, I pick and choose what I want to do. Stay connected with, China, with NBA. I got a couple teams that's interested. So right now I'm just maintaining, waiting to see what happens, and we'll see in the next couple weeks for real.
So basically, you're just saying whoever writes you the fattest check, right?
I mean that, and where I want to play though too.
I know.
Yeah.
I'm sure that's a piece of. Well, you deserve that now, and I can't imagine playing basketball every single day right now. I mean, how does your body respond from practice and games every day?
Yeah, I mean, I actually go see the route I done took. Like right now, I haven't played since October. I was with the Pelicans, so I mean, I didn't the last 3-4 years I didn't preserve my body pretty well because I didn't just play like half the seasons in China, half the season D League, half a season in NBA. So I didn't actually kept my body pretty strong, kept it pretty youthful. But now at this age, playing every day, yeah, that's rough.
Yeah, it's tough. See, I had that old man's body at about 19, so I can only imagine. If you need any help on recovery, I've been through that process for many years now.
Yeah.
But yeah, Jordan Crawford, you are the man. I appreciate you coming on the Be Different podcast. You gave us great stuff as always. I know for myself, everybody here, and definitely every Xavier fan here in Cincinnati, and anyone that watches basketball, high level or respect for you as a player. And man, one thing that people don't get from you that I got is you're one of the funniest guys that I ever had the opportunity to play with. I truly mean that. Between you, Mark, and the absolute comedy that ensued on a daily basis was much appreciated.
Yeah, man, it was that was some of the funnest times, man. I think about it all the time and how, like, if we would have got past that game, just how much of a chance we really had, man. It was fun.
Well, I remember when we were waiting to go on the court in Salt Lake City, and Butler was playing Syracuse, and Syracuse had Wesley Johnson, Andy Routens. They were the 1 seed, and they were playing Butler, and then Butler upset Syracuse. So we're going on the court, Sweet 16 game, playing Kansas State, and we knew that if we won, we had an opportunity to play a team that we should have beat earlier in the season. And unfortunately we didn't get that opportunity, but I mean, regardless, still one of the great runs in Xavier history, and you have some of the biggest shots in Xavier history. That's the one people remember, but there were so many games throughout that year as well. I remember the game at St. Louis that you hit some daggers. I mean, you hit dagger after dagger, especially that last half of the season.
Yeah, I appreciate that. That St. Louis game, I actually tell people all the time, that was my best game I played.
I thought that the game at St. Louis, I remember Mario Mercurio going absolutely insane after that game. I mean, the guy went absolutely nuts.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me on here, man, and bringing back the memories. I gotta see you, my man. They don't know you. You know what I'm saying? We used to drive back to Xavier together because we both from the same place, man.
Yeah, we did. We were driving around in my old '95 silver Impala.
Yeah, they don't know.
Yeah, that thing took an absolute beating. It got to about 250,000 miles, so I got rid of it, but I stayed true to my roots. I now have a new leased Impala, 2017. So thanks to Kelsey Chevrolet for that one.
Yeah. Oh, man, I keep doing your thing still, man.
Absolutely, man. Well, I'm going to actually be back up in Detroit soon. My older brother was living in China, in Beijing. I should have got him in touch with you when you were playing, but he just moved back from China. He's in Detroit. So I'm planning up a trip to Detroit here really soon. And then next time you're in Cincinnati, man, we'll have to link up.
Got to, man. I appreciate you having me.
All right. See you, man.
All right.